So we're here with Phoenix Lenore, and she has been pagan for 20 plus years, I do believe. And so, how are you doing, Phoenix?
Good. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for coming on the show. We're here to talk a
Thanks for
little bit about kitchen witchery, and also we have another surprise that we're going to be talking about as well. I'm very excited about it. So, something that people don't really know a whole lot about. So, tell us a little bit about yourself first, please.
well, I have been practicing approximately 20 years. I have been basically a solitary practitioner. I consider myself a kitchen witch, also a green witch, um, an eclectic witch. I do a little bit of everything. I like to forage, um, and I just recently, in the past year, started studying hoodoo.
And don't you practice bone divination? Your divination as well?
Yes. Yes, I do. I just started that here within the past couple of years, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, you're going
It's
to be a
been,
teacher soon. So that's
yes, I'm
fantastic.
hoping to become a
So,
teacher. So,
well,
yeah,
let's
that's
dive
been
right
great.
into the good stuff. Let's dive right in. So, kitchen witchery. Let's go into a little bit of history about it.
Okay, well, back in the day, we had to hide our things and try to keep our magic secret so that we didn't get persecuted. So, what a lot of people did was moved that into the home, into the kitchen, because you always had your hearth with your fire, and you had cabinets that you would keep your magical wares in, so they would stay hidden. But like your cauldron doubles as your pot on your stove. You can hide a lot of things, and you also keep those separate. Those utensils that you use for your magic work separate from your normal everyday kitchenware and kitchen utensils. But we had, our fire in our home. We had our cauldron always going. All of our herbs around drying. You usually had a witch's post to hang your cauldron from so that you could swing it, in and on the fire. Uh, but a lot of herbs were used because they could double as, or be used for lots of different purposes. Like one common herb can, have different properties that you can use it for. You also made your own medicine because that wasn't around in plenty. So we did a lot with teas and potions and tinctures.
Things like that. What um
Yes.
what kind of herbs would you recommend to have around your kitchen? I mean, what are the most common?
Rosemary, I consider to be like an all purpose type of an herb, kind of like quartz. You can use it for like all of the things I like to say, but definitely like healing, love, purification. Thyme is also a nice herb to have around. It's got a lot of purposes. You can use it for healing, spells, for love, some psychic knowledge, and also purification. Cinnamon is great. I love cinnamon. You can use stick, you can use powder, whatever works for you. But it's good for prosperity, some love spells, things that you want to bring some passion or some lust into. Also, protection, healing, purification. Bay is one of my favorites because that little leaf can do so many things. It's good for wishes, manifestation, spell work. I like to write my wish or my spell or down on the herb itself on the bay leaf, and then light that on fire, put it in like my cauldron, let it burn up, and then kind of let those ashes, we'll take them outside and blow them away. And cayenne is another great herb. I use either powdered or the flake, just depending. I like the flake if I'm putting it in like a bag or a gree bag because the powder I think will kind of seep through and might cause you a little bit of issue, especially if you're wearing it against your skin. So I kind of caution with that a little bit. But cayenne's great for fidelity, love spells. It's also good for some like hexing and like attracting bad luck to people, but it's good for that, and it's also good to use against that as well. So you can do like cayenne and salt and like sprinkle that around the house for some basic like protection and to help dispel some negative energy. Or you can mix it with black pepper and use that, and that'll ward off more like evil things. Basil is also a great herb. It helps draw in money, purification, love, protection, and salt. One of the most common things we have, but it's definitely good uses to help purification things, and it helps for protection as well. So those are just some basic herbs that everybody probably has in their kitchen, so you don't really have to run out and buy anything.
That's
And a lot of
fantastic.
times you can find these at like the dollar stores or your big box stores and find things in bulk for pretty good pricing.
Pretty reasonable. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
No, I appreciate you sharing that with us. Now, let me ask you something. It's cold and flu season. So what would you recommend as like maybe an antioxidant tea, or if somebody does come down with the flu or a cold or something like that, is there anything you would recommend people using to kind of prevent stuff,
I
or
love
if they already get it?
I love elderberry. I also am a big fan of honey. So I have actually currently and stashed in my refrigerator, I've got honey and lemon. So I took some organic lemons, I quartered them up, put them in a little glass jar, covered them with honey, and let them sit on the countertop for a couple weeks. Burp the jar every couple days because they did start to ferment a little bit, and just burping the jar lets the gas out. And then I store those in the fridge so I can do a spoonful of that in my tea. I also have honey and sage that I like to use. And we also have honey and jalapenos. And I also have honey and garlic.
Honey
So
and
I'll take a garlic
jalapenos.
clove. If I'm not feeling good, I'll pop a garlic clove, take a spoonful of that honey, and go on about my day. The other honeys I'll add to my tea to sweeten that up and get a little bit of that. But I also make something called fire cider,
I was going to ask you about
where,
that. Yeah, I was going to ask you
yes,
about that.
fire cider is great. I don't have the exact proportions like laid out here with me right now, but everybody makes theirs a little differently. But I did like the last batch that I did, I had horseradish, onion, garlic, and I did red onion and white onion. We put, I put a jalapeno in there, a few other things, and then I covered it with apple cider vinegar and let it sit on the countertop for, well, dark place, for about a month, shaking it every day. And then I strained off the solids and poured it back in the apple cider vinegar bottle that I used. And I used that and I let that sit. And I'll take a few teaspoons of that like every day.
So that's
Just
a
kind of,
preventative measure, the fire
I use it
cider?
more for preventative, yes.
Okay. Now, but if you get the flu or if you get a cold, if you haven't taken it, it also kills that, right?
Well, it'll also help with that. It'll help get
Okay.
you through it, kind of help push it through your system a little bit faster.
Okay. But you recommend preventing with it, right?
Yeah, I go for preventative over, oh my gosh, I need something
Got it.
now.
Yeah. Now, do you take that with honey? Because I've heard you're supposed to take it with honey, but some people do, some people don't. What do you do with it?
I just, I shoot it. I just put it in a little glass and just shoot it down and get it over with. But also the flavor on mine is pretty tasty. I like what it's come up with. So I've even thought about using it as a vinaigrette, which I
Oh,
haven't
okay.
yet, but I think it would be wonderful as a vinaigrette. So just to kind of put it in there a little bit and
Makes sense.
use it as other things because I love to.
That leads me to my final question about kitchen witchery. What actually differentiates the kitchen witchery from other witchcraft? What makes it different?
I believe it is in the art of for me, it's the recipe, coming up with the recipe is my spell for the most part, instead of when I do my other spells. Like my recipe for myself is my spell. Like coming up with the components, figuring out the properties of the different herbs that we want to use, and then knowing what combination to put those in together so that you can actually have something that's tasty and edible. And it's a lot, for me, I think it's a lot easier to hide if you need to do that. But when I'm doing kitchen magic, I let people know this is a magical meal. If you want to partake in this, I'm letting you know now that this is what this meal was prepared for, so that they're not taken aback or taken by surprise or think that I'm trying to be tricky or do something sneaky by, not letting them know that they just had a part of a magical meal. But I really think it is just that, in that making of that recipe and that coming up with that and the feeding and the nourishing that you can do from preparing something as a kitchen witch, is what I think differentiates it for me.
Beautiful.
Because I love.
Well, now that leads me into the second part, and I'm excited about this because I don't know a whole lot about Rose of Jerrico. I think they're beautiful. I know that they have a couple of different names. And can you kind of show us what a Rose of Jerrico is? Tell me, I know that, like I said, it's got a couple of different names. Kind of explore a little bit about that.
Yes, I definitely can. I have heard it called Rose of Jerrico. I've also heard it called the resurrection plant. It's an ancient herb known for coming back to life from looking nearly dead. So when you first get one, it's going to look pretty similar to this. It's going to look dry. It's going to look dead. And there are two different types. They call one the true Rose of Jerrico and the other false Rose of Jerrico. They both do the same thing. They open up once you put them in the water, and then they'll also curl back up when you let them dry. But I also, with the dry bits of this, like when you get them, they'll have some little shaky bits. Don't throw those away. Those can be used in your spells as well. I have been told that you do not want to burn it as incense. I'm not sure why, but I'm sure there's definitely a reason if they're telling us not to. But I'll save the little bits and pieces and add them to like my spell bags or charms that I'm making. So don't throw those little bits away. But when you get it, it'll be dried up and it looks like this. They come back to life after you moisten them back up with some water. Then the Middle East, they would use it for its medicinal properties. It can induce labor, so they would use it for that. It's also supposed to be good for cramps if you use it in the tea form. So they're kind of like a tumbleweed. They are great for like transformative magic or trying to like resurrect something, bring some life back to something. Prosperity, renewal, and bringing positive energy and good fortune. I don't know why I refer to mine as her. That's just me. But when you start working with her, you want to like communicate with her and talk to her and tell her what you're using her for and what you need from her and that you're going to take care of her so that she can make that happen for you. I usually put them in water just a little bit. I'll show you that here in a second. And within like an hour, they start to open. So this one is dry, straight out of the package. This one has been, oops, I'm spilling water, in the dish I put it in it about 2.5 hours ago. So it went from being that little dry to starting to open up.
Wow. It's already opening.
Yes. And you can also use the water that you are giving it its life back from. You can take that water, if you want to use it as like a room spray or you want to preserve it, I'd say mix it about 50-50 with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can use it as a room spray or as a spray to, bring luck and prosperity. You can dip your fingers in and, just anoint your hands and pull that towards yourself to bring yourself that prosperity, that luck, that love, that renewing energy that you need. And this one has been open about 24 hours. And
Wow.
it starts to green up. This one has coins in it, so I don't want to pick it up. We took this has traveled with me to a festival for 2 years now in a row. And when we set up our spot, we, as a collective group, as my girlfriend and her daughter go with us, we put our coins in and asked this to bring us prosperity during the festival. And then when we get back, we just let it dry and it curls back up. And I'll take it with me next year. But the great thing about this is they'll curl back up, they'll dry back up, and you can bring them back out. So usually if you run your spell about a week, I would start it, let it run till that next according day, the week later, and then let it dry up, put it away, and bring it out again the next time you do that spell. But you do want to let them dry back up because they can get moldy.
I was going to
And
ask
if that
about that.
happens, you'll have an issue. I've also seen people submerge them. I have not gotten to that point with it yet. I'm going to try to train this new one that I just started so that I can submerge her. And generally, once you get them conditioned to be submerged underwater, you can go like a month or so with them being completely submerged. Some people have gone even longer. But you can pass these down to like your kids, your grandkids, nieces, nephews. Like
So-
it can be a family plant that travels.
Okay, they last, and I was going to ask you that question. So they last
Yeah,
for.
you just have to let them dry up in between because unless you're going to submerge them, because you don't want them to get moldy.
Okay. Yeah, mine got moldy, and I left it in the bowl for too long. I left it for like 2 weeks, and it started to get moldy, and I didn't know what I was doing with it. And I also put it in the sun. Are you supposed to put it in the sun? Because
It can take sunlight. I mean, it's basically a desert plant, so it'll
okay.
take sunlight.
Okay.
I have been told, I have not had to try it yet, but baking soda,
Mhm.
like sprinkled on the moldy portion,
Mm-hmm.
is supposed to kind of help put that in check. Now, this one is, I think, the different version of the Rose of Jerrico. Yeah, there's a couple different ones. But like you can put coins in these. For gifts, if I'm gifting them to people, I will find out maybe what their stone is and make them like a necklace and then add like a coin or some other things inside. So I'll just get it partially opened up, maybe even just like this one that I've just had for a couple hours. I'll place those in there and then take it out of the water and let it dry up and then gift it to that person. So when they open it, they'll have their necklace inside and their, coin or whatever for a blessing.
That's
so
a
that
great idea. I love
they
that
can
idea.
start using the Rose of Jerrico. But I love the fact that you can use the water and you can use like the little crumbly bits that fall off. They're great. You can run them they're great for love spells, money spells, prosperity spells. They can be, like I said, reused and passed down. People also make an oil with them and use the oil for, those same prosperities and blessings. But you have to wake it up, which is when you put it in your water, and you want to use like filtered water or spring water, and you want it to be like cool. You don't want any hot water with it. If you are going to do like the submersion with it, you'll have to change that water maybe twice a day when you first start, because it'll start getting funky and gunky and it might leave, a film. So you'll take out the Rose of Jerrico once you have, been submerging it, and you'll rinse that in cold water and rub it with your hands. No type of soap, no detergent, because that'll kill it. you don't want to clean your vessel that it's in with detergent either. I just have these like, these little plastic crystal dishes that you can get from the party aisle for, for a couple of bucks. That's what I normally use to start them off in, because it's cheap and it's easy to get a hold of. And like when I'm gifting it, I'll put this in with it, wrap it up, and they have a nice little Rose of Jerrico with a little surprise inside.
That's so cool. Okay, so whenever you're one more question because we're about out of time, but I wanted to ask you this real quick. When you're not submerging it, but whenever you're just opening it, do you have to change that water?
I do not. What I generally tend to do is the water that I put in it, it's usually enough to keep it open for like the 5 to 7 days. So I usually generally have to, if anything, I have to add more water instead of dumping water off, because you just want that root ball submerged. Using the water of this thing until I started doing some research, and I was like, that's amazing.
That is
and if
amazing.
you do
I would
decide
have
that
never
you're going to
thought.
use water, you can add it to like your floor washes, your door washes, even your own spiritual baths. You can
Yeah, I
add
never
it to
thought
that.
about it.
So there's lots of uses for the water as well. So it's nice to be able to have one thing and she'll take care of you over multiple uses.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And I
Yeah.
so appreciate you coming on here. And I would love to have you back again to talk more about kitchen witchery. So,
Yes. Maybe we'll
yeah, I
do
would love
some
it.
recipes the next time. I'll come up with some
Yeah, that
basic
would be
things.
great. Yeah, that would be
That'd be
fantastic. So,
wonderful.
thank
Great.
you. And well, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Bye-bye. This next segment of the show is called Dear Atalanta, and it's when I have my viewers write in for me to answer questions that they have about witchcraft. So you can write in at atalanta@bonewitch.com. That's ATALANTA@bonewitch.com. But I invite you all to please definitely write in. I've got 2 short questions for today. The first one, Dear Atalanta, does the pentagram represent evil? The pentagram or the pentacle, neither represents evil. Matter of fact, they represent protection in the craft. Protection. So a lot of people associate them with evil because that's what Hollywood has made us to believe and think, but no, they represent protection. Now, the elements are what protects us, and the 5 elements that we have are earth, air, fire, water, spirit. So each point represents a different element, and altogether it represents protection. The next question is, Dear Atalanta, what is a fun fact that we do not know about witches? Okay, I got one. Fun fact about witches. We all know that witches love purple. That is our color. Well, have you ever driven by a house in a neighborhood and seen a purple door painted on a house? More than likely a witch lives there. That's one way we can identify where witches live in a neighborhood, is a purple door. Where it got started and why it got started, I have no idea. But that is the fun fact about witches. Thank you all for watching and writing in. And I ask you once again, if you would love to write in, I would love to answer your questions. That's atalanta@bonewitch.com. Thank you. Today's product we're going to review is Corilla's 1800 tobacco cologne. So tobacco cologne is used just like Florida water in that it is used as a cleaner. You can use it as a spray or a floor wash, or you can clean your altar tools with it. You can clean your bones with it. There's so many different uses with this tobacco cologne. It smells just like tobacco. It's got a nice clean scent. It's delicious. It smells like pipe tobacco or cigar tobacco. Of course, before it's burned, it does not smell like a cigarette. It's not expensive. It's about $20 or $30 for a 32-ounce container of it. You can get it on Amazon and eBay. So yes, highly recommended. Corilla's 1800 tobacco cologne.
So we're here at the Magical Druid, an amazing shop in Columbus, Ohio. Look at all the beautiful items. This is a gorgeous altar. Gorgeous. Come by, leave an offering if you choose.
This is Seamus. Welcome to the Magical Druid. We've been around for about 10 years here in Columbus, Ohio. We try to be a spiritual hub for the community. Our philosophy is all roads lead to the sacred center. We're just here to help you find your path. So if you're in the area, please stop by, visit our altar, light a candle or some incense. And if you're not, check us out on Facebook or YouTube and all those other outlets, or look at us online. So just everybody be safe and be good to each other.
And we'll be putting the...
I just want to say thank you for Phoenix Lenore being on the show. Also, thank you for all those who have tuned in to see us. We'll be back in 2 weeks where we'll be resuming the On the Road with Atalanta and the Dear Atalanta, and also product reviews. So, yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Blessed be.